John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Hello again.
Colonel, it's nice to see you, but I'm afraid I can't offer you any more insight into future events. These medicines dull my mind.
That's all right. That's not why I came. Although I did want to ask you a few questions about your visions, if you feel up to it.
Of course.
Have you ever been wrong?
No.
Knowing how events play out, you haven't been able to change the future or avoid it?
I'm afraid not.
What about the culling on your planet?
I did not see a culling. Merely the Wraith ships arriving, and that is exactly what happened. Dr. McKay's vision happened as he saw it. But his interpretation was incorrect.
Pretty hard to misinterpret what I saw.
I make no judgments, but I do know it will come to pass.
It's hard for me to accept that. You're telling me that the future is predetermined, but I have always believed that the future is what you make it.
Perhaps both are true. Perhaps the future is predetermined by the character of those who shape it. One thing has been clear to me from the moment I set foot in the city. The galaxy is at a crossroads. Never before have I sensed that the future of so many worlds can turn on the actions of so few.
Hey guys, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, 7 of Truth with you once more. Thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as always. I do always say that, and I do mean it. from my currency trading days, I knew there was 168 hours in the week, and every moment was very precious. So as always, I want to offer what I feel will be an investment in your journey, imparting what I know and I've experienced to help you navigate your reality and your experience on Earth in this amazing time to be alive. That's everything is up for grabs and so much is going on, and so few are dedicated to the truth. So if you are dedicated to the truth, not a vested interest, accommodate my perspective and contort the world to fit my views sort of truth that most people govern by, but the truth. I really thank you and honor you for all that you've done to be here and to get to this point now. This video is going to be my Infinite Potential Universal Sovereignty Declaration version 3 release, because ideally, before I've offered you this video and the normal time that I sort of do it, I would have shared on my website the sovereignty declaration that I have been working on for about 6 weeks. It's been a huge effort for me, and I don't invest or contribute or share anything like this in a public sense, taking it very lightly. I take enormous responsibility in everything I contribute to that may impact people and stuff. So it's been an interesting few years, 9 months, few months and stuff, and at the start of the year I just reviewed what I was doing, and based on all the missions and all these really incredible beings I've had the privilege to operate with in the last 9 months that deserve a lot more recognition than what I've offered, we've worked out a lot of how things are working and what's been actually going on to reveal a lot of truth, to impart and move ahead very quickly and in the attempt to really establish ourselves in a very defensive sort of ability to endure everything going on. And the very big thing that's apparent with all that has been revealed by all these missions, and particularly a lot was revealed after really truly integrating the concept of DNA talent code stealing and hacking and all that sort of stuff in July last year, 2023, of how much has still been going on that we've had no awareness of, and how much we've been up against that has had a massive advantage of us, right? So perhaps I might show the going into the unknown image quick. So I haven't showed this for a little while, and I probably won't share too many images, but I'll just show this up front. So this is a metaphor of what our journey's been like, not being very aware, these operators in the unknown having a massive advantage of us, not even knowing that we're in a, from my perspective, an occupied reality and planet. Then we gain some awareness and realize that there's these things called life force, and you know, the discovery of the unknown, the black lines at the bottom is that discovery. So this is the unknown image. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so there's all this knowledge out there that we don't know about, and concepts and stuff, and then you start going down your path and you might get hit and don't know it because you're on the radar a bit, and then you start getting ahead and realizing what's going on, but these operators from the unknown have a huge advantage still, that you're chipping away and there's a potential threat for them to be busted. And then what we're sort of dealing with now is that this sort of last 9 months has been a real revealing of the whole structures of everything to be able to get this point now. And so this particular sovereignty declaration is a byproduct of all my evolution and all this discovery that's gone on in this recent time to actually allow us to raise the bar and perhaps have a fair fight for once. Alright? So that's just, this is an image I've used, and I've talked about the unknown quite a bit, but this is a metaphor of what's been going on, and this today, this sovereignty declaration from my perspective is my best contextual investment in anyone that explores it, to realize this is what we've been up against, and this is what you individually have been up against all along without knowing it, alright? And perhaps now we might have a fair fight and we can move forward and bust all these things going on to then really re-establish what I've identified with the people as the pure source authority in the universe once more. Alright? So that's just the unknown image. So I may not show too many images, I just want to get into a flow. So I've already done it. But it's been an interesting week. It's been a quite massive undertaking for me to choose to actually evolve what I do and be willing to contribute to and expand my sessions and many things. Because if you've been around me for a while, what I do is I just process all the variables and try and create an output that is the antidote or the solution to all the things going on. So one of the big things for me is always about collecting the variables of what is actually going on. And going back to my currency trading days 10-15 years ago, one thing I learned back then is, and that's that context image that I'll show you, or I've showed many times, is that trying to navigate based on a false path is a setup for failure. And so today, being able to share what I've shared on my website, the Infinite Potential Universal Sovereignty Declaration, it's a fascinating thing for me because it evolved to being more than what I felt the initial effort to create this was about. Because as I say, like this word context of actually having a solid foundation to actually navigate in this world, it's very precious. Truth is very precious, right? And that's why, there's intelligence agencies and propaganda and disinformation and all that, because the variables out there and people in the alternate and spiritual community and stuff, they don't actually want you to know the truth, because what is behind you knowing the truth? What do you see relative to a lot? Alright? So, yeah, it's just very fascinating because it expanded quite a bit. And so one of the big things is that I did it based on, a lot of you guys have been around for a long time and been here and there, and perhaps many of you watched a lot of my videos, perhaps some of you have come here and there and just randomly find me for specific points and stuff, and whatever I contribute to your journey, I'm grateful for, alright? One of the variables I was measuring is that potentially there's a lot of people going to be disillusioned by this world and look for answers like you and I have done to be here, right? And so one of the variables I was measuring is what would I want if I was coming into my awareness? Would I want to have to do the 10 or 15 years like I and many of you have done to just find this concepts now? Or would I want a very rich, condensed, massive codex of concepts that are going on beyond the declaration of sovereignty? And so a lot of what I've tried to do in my videos is impart my wisdom and my experiences, because if you guys have gone through my multi-dimensional method to the 3D Madness series, some of the end ones were about memory, sort of in the skeletal sort of stuff, and then there was one on empathy sonar. And one of the tools I've always employed empathy for is to actually, you can employ empathy to read an individual's journey, to download their variables as a way to accelerate your journey. You don't actually need to go through every experience. you can invest in the experiences of others to actually integrate all the angles and see all the angles like a 3D rendered sort of virtual reality sort of thing. And so the empathy sonar was based on the Batman Dark Knight video where he used all the phones to do sonar, a bit like a bat, and I employed like the whale sonar, like our prefrontal cortex is like a sonar of the reality, and the whole Chaos 19 was to scramble that, and so we don't have a reference to the reality, and that's one of the things that have made a lot of people crazy, and they don't know they're being disconnected from that subtle multi-dimensional collective that is there with humanity and stuff. So in offering that concept of the empathy sonar and the investment of another person's journey, I've always tried to impart my variables of my journey that come to these appreciations to be able to impart what I do. And so this one I'm gonna discuss my sovereignty journey, because as I've shared, I've been around for a while, and there's been many eras in the alternate spiritual community that I've been a part of and stuff, and learnt a lot of things, and there might be a lot of questions of why we have a document like this. And my metaphor or my response to that is that we need every tool that we can have, right? We need to dot every I and cross every T of possibility with this reality how it is, because we've been up against it and we've had no idea what we've been up against. So the actual process of defining your boundaries with your tones, as I said in the last video about people having their tone stolen, so you define your energy boundary, is incredibly valid to me. And so in my infinite potential sessions, after I do the pranic and the energy hygiene, which I call the defensive aspect, then I go on the offense of defining the way the universe can interact with you. See, from my perspective, we're born into this unawareness realm, as I call it. As a total open book, we don't know that playing the victim opens up our emotion and energy body to be hacked and all sorts of stuff. And that's why one of my emotional mastery videos, part 4, is all about society rewards a victim, alright? The false victim concept. And I'd never play the victim. Like, I impart the variables of what I go on because I'm just gobsmacked by the craziness that goes on, and you know, the agendas that people have that get revealed by the outcomes and the impacts to other people, and it's just fascinating. But the concept of defining your boundaries and the way the universe can interact with you, employing your voice tech, which is frequency, inside your bubble, is incredibly valid to me, alright? And that's why I do it. And I've had many years of exploring all sorts of stuff, and I've contributed and created and stuff, and for me, my evolution is to actually contribute and offer my perspectives on that to empower people. And I know, like, I'm pretty peerless in my experience and what I've been involved in, right? So this today and what I've offered on February 10th, 2024, Year of the Dragon, being a dragon, born in the year of the dragon and stuff, I just thought it was an interesting variable of what's going on right now. I impart what I feel is my best solution with all those variables, alright? With my wisdom of experience, expertise, naivety in many aspects, being in the trenches of many things and stuff like that, and very experienced in doing missions and healings and stuff like that now, and seeing the outcomes with people that have found me and stuff like that, right? Plus the outcomes of sort of experiences that haven't sort of had the best for me and have actually had very negative sort of scenarios, and how I got into them and stuff, which is very cool, because today or this week I had to really go to ground and I was getting hammered, alright? And it was like, how the hell is this going on? And I sort of knew it because I put that February 10th in my last video to make it a actual target to weed out stuff and see what gets shown up, and it's not anyone or anything like that. What I what I realized and what got revealed is, and this is a big thing, the truth isn't revealed when things are good, the truth is revealed when things are bad a lot of the times, and things are on the line, and everything is very needing to be very efficient and on, you know, a lot of the clutter and the distractions are cleared out. It's very pure, and when everything is, you're being hammered and stuff, it's like, what the hell? So obviously I've imparted a lot and reverse engineered a lot of the concepts and methods and mechanics of interference and stuff like that, because a big variable in this sovereignty declaration is, and it was probably the hardest thing to me to impart and get down into words, because every time I sort of go into a session, I know all these variables, I'm armored up with them, alright? Because the multi-D is very vast and there's potentially many gaps and stuff in that. But what came out of this week for me and revealing another big layer was back in, I know it was probably the first half of 2022. Someone showed me a Vatican birth certificate that was on their website, and in interaction with them, their perspective was it was to clear, say, me out of the birth certificate sort of incarnation war grid sort of stuff. But what I got this week is that was actually entangling me with that, and it was very subtle. And with all the memory wiping that I've sort of offered in the last video, in the energy layers and assumption mechanics, hacking and all that sort of stuff, this birth certificate interaction and imprinting my feet with the stamp as a child, because here in Australia I don't know what other people had, but I never got my feet stamped in a birth certificate. Alright, maybe I found a loophole in that, but I don't think that's done down here. So it was never done to me as a child. So when I know now with the hindsight of what went on with clearing all the other clutter out these last 6 weeks or few months of pretty extreme stuff going on, is what one last sort of, I'm hoping it's last, who knows what the unknown will reveal in the future, but very significant hack into my body related to that birth certificate interaction, where with all the other layers of hacking and messing and code stealing and life force harvesting, oversoul hacks and stuff like that, this birth certificate interaction and imprinting my feet, I'm pretty sure it was the right foot. The left leg is always pretty epic, and that's where it's quite fascinating, that right foot, because I remember that interaction. I know when my body is, an energy body is affected by things, and I was in a very disarmed, trusting state, because who would want to hack me and all that if I'm going to directly interact with them and stuff? That's a new variable you need to add to every interaction that you have, alright, obviously. But I know my assumption mechanics was hacked many months before that, in early January 2022. So yeah, it was a very interesting self-realization this week of clearing all the layers of all the stuff that's going on, and it was very potent for me to actually realize that now. So the actual putting the target on the back, I never talk about dates and stuff or anything in the future. Everything is always in the moment, and I do the best, and if I can't, then I won't, and I don't set expectations at all. And so I went full Ghostbusters, crossing the streams of actually putting a date and a target on this particular sovereignty declaration to smoke out the frackery and all that sort of stuff. So that was very deliberate, and it helped me with all the stuff that was going on, and there's nothing wrong or anything like that with what went on this week. This is what got revealed. And so me, by imparting this with you, those of you that have had this interaction and no one has even noticed this, alright? It's going to be a big holy frack sort of moment for a lot of you, because I know you've been around sort of things with me and stuff, and I would offer this as a separation from our own birth certificate sort of stuff, which is why I wanted to go into my sovereignty journey, because it's very interesting what happened 2013 and after that and stuff. So yeah, see, those of you that are pretty epic, you might want to do an assessment on any interaction like this, because the other thing with me is one of the big things I've done in 2015 was the actual sacred site that I deal with, the individual that I worked with in that, they do a lot of ancestral karma clearance of all, say, the demons and the disincarnated that can't cross over and all that sort of stuff, that are trapped on the surface as ghosts and haunting and all sorts of stuff. So we did this in December 22nd. It's 21st, 2015, we cleared our city. We went around and did grid work and cleared the city and stuff. And the day after, we went down to this site, and what we did was this fire ceremony where we crossed over, or gave the offer to 1.8 disincarnated indigenous that have all been genocided and stuff, and helped them have the option to cross over or reincarnated with clear karma as light warriors and stuff. So 1.1 million chose to reincarnate, go through the incarnation grid clear, and 700,000 went to the 5D Earth, because the individual I was dealing with was worth the 5D Earth and cleared that. So I've done a lot of work with the 5D Earth in the many years, the last 10 or 15 years, but I haven't done much in recent few years because I've been very independent operator, and 22D and clearing up the universe and pure source has been the output of all my experience and the best from my perspective with everything. So where I'm at now is what I offer in this sovereignty declaration is basically where I'm at, okay, relative to all this. So I'm just offering variables of my past, of actually being in the trenches, of actually dealing with this stuff and the people I've dealt with, as a representation of the depth of my experience in the trenches with all this stuff in this spiritual community, that not many people are as peerless as I am with the experience I've been through. Right? So yeah, what I'm getting to is a birth certificate and this involvement 2022 and the last couple of years, and the revealing of the code stealing in July 2023 and all the stuff related to galactic special forces and stuff, because that 2015 variable with the sacred site that I deal with and the 5D and the incarnation grid and stuff, one of the big things that was revealed in September 2023 was that there were 100,000 no-time fields that were being used to trap very advanced souls trying to incarnate into this reality. And I had conversations back in February about the blame being shifted relative to them, which I facilitated, I'll just say that. But yeah, like this birth certificate thing and the impact on me to hack into me, I realize it's all related to all that 2015 stuff, and to probably access a lot of those souls and stuff and trap them and put them into the 100,000 no-time fields and make sure that they aren't able to incarnate into the reality. So yeah, how big's that? That was just this week, and I was like, holy shit, crazy. But yeah, this sovereignty journey. So I hope those of you that are here that may have been impacted by that specific births, and I'm feeling my right foot right now because it's clearing out through the collective, me saying this. And I've dealt with a lot of people that have been impacted by it, because I feel this has been like an unrecognized hack into us that has caused a lot of WTFs when we've been badass, and why perhaps the 22D doesn't seem to be maintainable and all that sort of stuff, because I would offer that anyone that's been hacked this way is probably, it's a bit like light language, it's potentially a virus that's going through our energy bodies that we haven't known about. So just do that assessment and see if you get something from that. The reason I impart this variable up front about the false insert overlay of the feet, and of this experience that I sort of had that I realized was so profound this week, was that it was more than likely used to track me at my birth, right? And the reason why I'm bringing up the incarnation war is, if you're here in human form and aware, you've managed to evade the incarnation war, right? So far. Doesn't mean it's totally negated and we've broken wide open, but I've made a big effort to impart in a linguistical way into this sovereignty declaration the vastness and the mechanics of the incarnation war, because I've always incorporated that as a variable in what I share. As what I've sort of said, my assessment of the reality right now is that there's probably going to be a lot of people looking to come on very quick. So what I've created in this is to be a massive codex and download of a lot of concepts in a written way for people to download and get fast track up to speed without a lot of the BS that many of you being here have had to endure and go through to actually come to these understandings, because I feel a lot of people are going to need to get up to speed very quick and they're going to be on their game. And so this particular document and story of our journey from pure source for a very long time, and all the war that we've gone through to get to now to be on Earth through the incarnation war, is very, very significant. And so you see, what I'm getting to is that if we've managed to evade everything to get on the surface, aware how rare we are, how much of a true threat we potentially are. And so this particular 2022 document entangled with the Vatican footprint birth certificate, to me it's then gone back through our lineage and stuff of this life to our birth to actually imprint and mark us on the surface, to then potentially target us all the way through our life up until this point and going forward, because we've made it through. So we're threats. Because one of the things I offer is, from my perspective, the incarnation war has been busted open. So the 15 sort of minute cities and stuff like that is an effort to lock all that down, right? And I have created a incarnation war series. It was the end of a sort of era for me of imparting the last sort of real profound sort of concepts that I had learnt in past eras, just before the Ashayana Deane sort of realization in October 2021. And so I shared the perspectives of what I appreciated of the incarnation war back then, which are valid to explore, but they've expanded a lot. And I did a part 6 relatively recently. So it's more so you appreciate the concepts of things like mass incarnates, and you know, we're born into this world with the naive cultivated awareness that we have, or the cultivated naivety that we have, if I use the linguistics I've employed into this sovereignty declaration. And if you've been around me, one of the big things I did back in the early part of my journey is, because this person I cared for was what I felt was on the edge suicidal, I wanted to know what happened after death. And I went and had past life regression, and I had a really amazing experience, because I felt the experience of leaving the body and felt like love I've never felt. And I was just like weeping. And you know, I've been into the dance party sort of scene, and there's experience of love that you can have in there, but this was beyond anything that I've ever experienced. So I felt what it was like, and leaving the body, because I'd been poisoned in the 1400s or 1300s, 1200s I think, and I knew the person that did it in this life that I used to associate with in the 90s, and so yeah, I've had that experience. And so it's rocked my world, this thing that happened this week, because I was like, I don't make assumptions, alright, and I've been very thorough, and so it was just so many different layers of influence and stuff. So I really want to impart this to you, because what I'm getting to is then it can perhaps maybe mark us when we got through all of this stuff, that potentially that birth certificate that we've had didn't impact us. So this is to identify us now and track us all back, and then also track your lineages as well, because the individual involved, all relative to that big mission relative to 5D Earth and the 1.8 million souls and all that I've done in the sacred site. And yeah, it's all related, if that makes sense. So then future children are tracked, or your present children are tracked and brought into that and identified and all that by this individual working for the system, right? So it's a big thing. One of the big things of me imparting this document this way is whenever I learn a concept like this, once I put that aha moment together, I've added that truth reference as a variable to my repertoire of all that I know. So once I know stuff, I trust that I've got the ability to negate it. Like, I'm the authority over my body. I do these, declarations to my energy field, and I embrace that energy all the time. It's like, once you do it enough, you can just tune into those moments when you define your boundaries that way, and it is all that there is going on with you. You can always tune back into that moment, empower it, and engage it all the time. Okay, I would not be complacent with that though. I would always be thorough and raise your bar in a vigilant way, like Michael Jordan, if you watch The Last Dance, in a practice way for the game sort of thing. I would be thorough and methodical, and like I offered in our Intuitive Potential Part 2, the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours, right? I would always raise my bar of what I think is going on to actually be thorough and eliminate it as a variable, that so doing it to make sure. Okay, but yeah, there's all sorts of multi-dimensional ways you can employ these things, and once you've done it, you can always tune back into your past at that time and reanimate yourself that way, and rearm yourself in any moment. Right? These are you're the controller of your energy field and the way the universe can interact with you and stuff. So it's just, I don't want to encourage complacency, alright? But these are sort of techniques that you can employ that maybe you haven't thought of, or you didn't know you could because no one's taught you. Okay, I hope this is pretty big so far. I've talked quite a bit about this stuff, and I haven't really gone into my sovereignty journey, but this is a very big release for me, and I'm really wanting to impart a lot of wisdom so you can potentially employ your empathy sonar to actually download a lot of the experiences I've had into you and incorporate them into your journey in a fast track sort of way, because this sovereignty declaration is very deliberate in that it's aimed at sort of the new people, so epic, craving for a reference of all this stuff and a codex, and I've done it in that way for all sorts of variables in the audience that may find me throughout this reality and stuff, because I feel this might be flipping it back into fair, or even going on the offense, because so much has been revealed, and so many of the concepts and so many of the things done to us. And the big thing, right, is you're not weak, guys. You're freaking epic for enduring all this stuff that you don't even know. You're just like me, you're just bumbling around, discovering this stuff. And every discovery, like I said, discovery is my joy. Every discovery takes away a variable that they can use against us. So I'm really investing into this 6 weeks of effort to create this hardcore journey for me. Very, very tough, to impart a lot of discovery for you guys. And it's even really fascinating because I've done a couple variables, like couple versions of this. Just to get it down was massive for me. And so I shared the version 3, because I'll probably release version 3.2 just to get it all down. And I wasn't really looking for feedback and stuff, because I just, like I shared in that last video, the Miyamoto and Musashi of respect the gods and Buddhas, but trust yourself sort of thing. I just aim to do my best, and if my best isn't good enough, so be it. But I did get some feedback, and some veterans that have been around all the era that I have, they gained new insights about the influences and stuff, and it was really profound for me, because a lot of these influences I've talked a lot about in my videos. So again, like I said in the video last week, Influences Part 4, I realized that back in 2014, not many people read. And so I could talk for 2 hours in a video and it could impart like 1,000 hours of research, or 5,000 hours of research. And, you know, if I wrote that in a 200-page book, it might take 2 or 3 weeks or maybe a month for people to read, and we need to know it now. And so I was writing quite a bit in early 2014. I did this video, Money, the Ultimate Consciousness Pacifier, and a lot of people watched it, and I realized, holy cow, I could actually feel the impact of this. And so that's what really got my video creation variable going. But what I realize now is that it's sort of, like I said, Ghostbusters crossing the streams. It's actually creating a document like this that, I'm calling it a Universal Sovereignty Declaration, but it's a codex of the reality comprehension from my perspective that a lot of people have no idea is going on. And you guys might have watched a lot of my videos and stuff, and you might actually hear now when I talk about these things, because there's been so many influences and stuff going on, and it's not your fault. It's just really fascinating. So I hope it's very rich in discovery for you. But yeah, the version 3 was pretty raw and it was long, and just to get it down was an achievement. I did a version 3.1 and I started going through that because I needed a bit of downtime, because I rewrote a lot and eliminated a lot, and it was fascinating rereading that, because what I've offered is that I worked out a big variable of influence that is probably hacking and all that sort of stuff. So when I reread that and started getting into doing version 3.2, because I wanted to be really clear, it was like, holy cow, who is this? All right. So it's just fascinating what was there. I'm not going to talk about the specific ways I was being influenced, but it was very hard to create a document how this is and stuff, and really imparting the influence section was very fascinating to actually get out. That was the biggest, toughest thing to actually linguistically share what I've shared relative to the influences that I've shared. Once I got it down, it's just fascinating writing, because I did a lot in 2014. So now getting into the main part of this release, and I'll sort of offer it as the validness for expressing your sovereignty with your voice in this way, or the validness for declaring your sovereignty. Defend your energy body, energy field, and defining the rules in which the universe can interact with you. Because as I said, from my perspective, just as a sheer variable to eliminate is extremely valid. But we're born into this unawareness realm, I call it, with cultivated naivety by design to leave us as an open book for influence. So expressing yourself this way, while it might feel foreign and maybe it feels like there isn't any impact and stuff like that, but at worst, just defining the rules as your consciousness in your amazing human DNA technology seeded by Earth Mother, with an appreciation of all that's going on this way. From my perspective, we are the authority of what can be done to us. So if you do this in the right way, then it potentially eliminates a lot of the gaps and vulnerabilities we all have, alright? Let alone, as I've offered, violation is an asset. So if you have been violated and impacted by things that think that they can have their way with you, never thinking that you would do this, then they're potentially in a trap that they don't want you to do this, alright? And then we can go out, like I said, on the offense and clear all this stuff up. I like the analogy of an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, sort of Martin Luther King thing. So, a holographic reality sort of thing if there's an impact in us, then that can ripple through the entire holographic, multi-dimensional, greater body of things, if that makes sense. So I'm going to impart sort of my journey into this variable of sovereignty and stuff, because there's many things that have gone on in different areas, and a lot of the concepts might be lost or never even known about by many people that come on later. A lot of you veteran sort of people, you know, you're in the trenches and maybe you've forgotten a lot of this stuff, but I guess I'm just a unique variable that has had sort of interactions and my own thread through everything and stuff. So as I said, I'm investing here to impart my wisdom of experience into your empathy sonar possibility, right? So one of the variables is I found a radio station out there in late 2012. Then I sort of found Andrew 2013, March 2013. I found this other being Nikki, April. May we had some interactions. June, Andrew went and did GH, Galactic History in Mount Shasta and stuff. And one of the variables he offered just before he did that was soul contract revocations. He offered 5 and stuff, and one of the big variables he sort of talked about and was interested in was relative to law and sovereignty and all this sort of stuff, and there were very that's a theme, right? And there were people out there that are very dedicated to that theme, and I just found law, it's so vast, it's such a specialized variable. People like Jordan Maxwell and Eustace Mullins were very good at it. Eustace Mullins was badass. He used to defend himself, and the eras that he came through were epic, right? So you might want to look for Eustace Mullins, some of his books, if you don't know who that is. But he's one of the cool variables that I've explored through the years, particularly the Federal Reserve, him, G. Edward Griffin, Bill Steele. He was an amazing guy that went through the very hard years, you know, that forged our potential now when we think it's tough, but, you know, a lot of people aren't around anymore from that sort of thing. They never made it through. So yeah, I had an appreciation of law, and it was the way I've always worked is, especially when I got going, I'd have 2 lists. I'd have lists of people and I'd had concepts, and I've always been very thorough, and all concepts that I didn't understand I'd go and investigate and do my keyboard ninja on the internet and go and find. But the law, it was definitely a variable that I passed, and I'm very glad to say that I passed. It was, I always trust and believe in myself that I can do anything I want, but just getting into the galactic and big scale stuff, and I would just offer that I appreciate the law. There was a lot of magic and spells and linguistics and just things like going and looking at dictionary and what actual words mean. Like, yeah, it's all very interesting, but I just felt it would have been a very dominant concept to get into, so I didn't really go down it, other than just appreciating the variables and the linguistics. People like Michael Desarian, Jordan Maxwell would always talk about the words and what they meant and stuff, and maritime admiralty law relative to the mother and the birthing and the shipping and all that sort of stuff. I appreciated that. So I was across it and I got it. I'm no expert in that. That's all I'm wanting to offer. But the second half of 2020, or the second half of 2013, a big variable that was going on was there was a very distinctive sovereignty movement within the spiritual and alternate community. And I'll just offer it in this way. From my perspective, it was all about, you know, we're born into this world of all the variables I sort of talked about a bit earlier. And so there's documents and all this sort of stuff to banking systems, and one of the variables relative to the birth certificate was it's actually traded, you know, on the stock exchange and stuff, and from my perspective right now, it could be wrong, that the value of a birth certificate had 1.8 million US dollars associated with it. So a lot of the immigration stuff that's going on, it's all designed to create documents to actually create assets for corporations as companies, as countries. So a lot of broke countries can have assets on their books to actually trade us, all right? So that's a big metaphor. So you think from a money perspective, our life force is a asset. I've always talked about money being a life force encapsulation technology. So you invest in a session with me, I impart all my energy and expertise and stuff and wisdom that I've invested in these last 15 years to appreciate what I do. So in a way there's a trade, if that makes sense. So that's why I always talk about energy exchange and value and stuff like that, because the way the system works is it wants to, and greed and stuff, it wants to gain as much as it can for as little investment in exchange. So you invest $1,000 in something and I give you something that I have as a numerical value as that, but it only costs me 100 units to actually create, then that $900 gain is sort of a harvest sort of metaphor, if that makes sense. So a lot of people are governed by greed because they want to amass a large pile of life force energy and stuff, right? So all these things relative to the sovereignty movement were all very highly expressed, and a lot of people wanting to get clear of, say, this system and stuff like that. And I'll just say, from my perspective, I found it all fascinating, and there's a lot of people dedicated to that and very zealous. But what I always felt is if you were outside the system, then you would be mega targeted, right? And it was a trap. And a lot of this stuff, it was all technically fascinating, like an idealist view sort of thing. But people don't understand the multi-dimensional and the structures here and what's being done in the Incarnation War and all that sort of stuff and all the life force and all that. It's more governed by 3D 5 sense sort of aspects that we're expanding that into the multi-D, but didn't understand the game we're in. So a lot of the things that are done, like I said with Bitcoin, it was like created to create a blow-off valve for this reality where the people seeking sovereignty would go into it, which would in a way be a trap and stuff, right? It's not, I'm not saying Bitcoin's bad or anything, it's just a variable out there, but people have their motives and their agendas and their idealist views on things, and they can all be used against you and stuff like that. So back in 2013, I really felt it just had no interest for me. I felt, from me, my perspective, actually being in the system was the only way to actually change it. You had to be entangled. Like I said, if there's violation going on, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, and if these things are entangling with us and we don't know that we are being violated, then once we come to that realization, we can flip it all and stuff. So Andrew offering many, like 5 revocations: divine, masculine, feminine, government, banking, and one other, media. And so there were new concepts and stuff, and so I appreciate all these variables and the potentials related to them. You don't know all the outcome and stuff like that, or if there's agendas, or if the words are spells and traps and stuff, but I'm just offering all that as back what was going on back then. I never really got into them. I was very aware of them. They just weren't themes that really drew me into being as dedicated as other people. So what happened in 2014, there was all this stuff going on, and I've shared all the falling outs and stuff, and I just got a bit sick of the crap back then, let alone what I've gone through since. 11 years, freaking crazy. 10 years, 11 years now. So I got into my writing early in 2014, and one of the things I did in that writing, I created this thing called the principles of existence. So there's this variable called crime out there. My appreciation of crime is, infiltration and entities and all that sort of stuff, and undercover negative invader souls, like a lot of the serial killers and stuff to me are just like people from the Ayani massacre doing their shit again in this era, right? So with my appreciation of the sovereignty thing, which I felt like was a trap, we've been born into this unawareness realm with an open book sort of thing for violation, but being in it to me was a variable that how do we create this, and how do we deal with it being in it? Like us being, to me, like a shaman was like the white blood cell in a body. It was like there to clear everything up and, you know, be the antidote for everything. So my shamanistic sort of healing energy, multi-dimensional GSF sort of attitude was, we're in it. How do we be the antidote to it? So I appreciate all the variables out there. I appreciated how people were. A lot of people are idealistic, but when the truth is there and opportunities to be gained, a lot of the people that like to present themselves a certain way will just screw people over, and you know that's what's gone on and stuff like that. I don't want to get into that all that much, but a lot of people are big talk, but when, you know, you imagine people I remember there was a New York crime movie with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, and Russell Crowe was a cop, and it was about the 70s sort of thing, and Denzel was like a gangster, and there was a scene where there's this trunk and the police open it and there's this suitcase of money, and the cops, you know, corruption was big and taking money was thing. Russell Crowe was an idealist and stuff, but you know, like the police, not saying there's corruption now or anything, but the idealist feels they aren't. But the truth is known when you see a suitcase of money that's an opportunity to take and improve your life, you know, with this thing called money out there. So there's a lot of opportunists in the spiritual community and all that sort of stuff. That's all I'll say, that whether they'll do the right thing or right thing by them and stuff. So all I'm just offering is that I appreciate all these values, and you know, people go on the radio and they talk a big thing and people think that they're that and stuff, and then you get involved and then you see a lot of the truth, alright? But there was also this attitude of the way people want to be seen and present themselves. It's a facade and the truth is known underneath it. And I always sense the truth with people and stuff like that, because I really like doing the right thing. It feels good even when you can do the right thing by you. It's like there's an unknown benefit, you know, like say if I do the right thing by someone and I help them, and in that moment it might cost me and it might be wrong, but it might be the energy high dimensional 22D beacon for other people to find me, because I do that very noble act, and I love that mastery in every moment of that, because you don't know what amazing opportunities are out there waiting for you to prove yourself, sort of thing. So one of the things, like I've said, and I don't want to get into it or talk about it too much, is that my ex was suicidal and I had the opportunity to make a lot of money, or I was in Sydney to be with her, and I didn't want to lose her while everything was on the line, so I quit my job to take care of her and stuff. And from the materialistic point of view, it was a horrible thing to do, and I thought it was like a very brave thing to do, and everyone thought I was crazy and stuff, but that was a rite of passage for me to gain activation on this path. And it's been a roller coaster ride, but you get these moments where you have to prove yourself by the variables, and your nature will reveal itself in them, and you don't know what might be waiting for you to prove yourself. That's all I'm saying. So I got all this in 2014 and stuff, and I got all the variable about the sovereignty movement and what was going on a bigger scale. I didn't understand all the, you know, those of you that were back then, it was very rich in a very accelerated discovery time, and there was a lot of inertia, the post-2012 thing, and there was a lot of optimism and inspired sort of, you know, I love the discovery sort of thing, like I said. So we had no idea these people were really getting a lot of traction and it felt like there was big movement sort of stuff going on. And it's not about buying into information. That we had no reference of what the truth was. We were in a massive unknown discovery, and it was so exciting, right? But I was just like, being in this legal sort of framework and banking system and all that, the outlet blow-off valve to go into like destroying all your documents and stuff didn't feel right. I wanted to raise my bar in it. I felt raising the bar and being better in it was the answer. So I created this, I think back then it was 48. I'd redid it a while back, but I think I lost the file when I lost the computer, like a disk failed and stuff, and I didn't back it up. So I created this principles of existence back then. So to say that the laws, you know, there is crime and people do bad and stuff like that, and I won't, from my perspective, there's many variables of the reason for that, but I won't get into that now. But the laws are there to cater for the worst, right, that do all these offending if we appreciate the reality how it is. And so if I raise my bar to that level, it means I'm doing the right thing no matter what. And like I talk about this sweet spot of finding the best in everything and stuff. So I felt like raising the bar on me. Like the very first principle of existence is how am I wrong in this moment? So if you have the courage to assess, like, maybe this moment on this concept, I could be wrong, right? Because there's more potential on the other side if you admit that. You look at all the wars in the world and stuff, like the battles, and people are just like, I'm right. I'm not going to give up this lie that I'm agreeing to and shit because I'm getting money from it, or I'm getting status or whatever, or it's like, it's in disagreement with you, so I'm not going to agree with you because I don't want to concede you're right and shit. And it's just like, who wants to deal with all that crap? I was just like, if I'm wrong, frick it, let's find the truth. And you know, if someone comes to me and I know they're wrong, and I'm not going to like use it as leverage of like, oh, I'm better than you and all that. It's like if you disarm that wrong in everything, because we're discovering, like, we don't know what the frick is going on. It's like, oh, I've been like Thomas Edison, like 10,000 tries to make the light globe sort of thing. It's all about, you know, overcoming how wrong you are to understand how vast and everything is. So yeah, the very first principle is how am I wrong at this moment and stuff. So then I raised my bar, and it's always been I haven't shared that. I've shared that to a few people and stuff, and maybe I've shared it to many people I shouldn't have shared it to now, but all I'm offering is back in 2014 I defined that for myself, and I haven't. That's why I am the way I am, because I am very tough on myself, and that's why I love the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance sort of thing, because it's all about working very hard to eliminate all the variables, so when the game is on and stuff. And going back to my younger years, I played Australian rules football, and the coach that I had, you might want to go look up this guy called Simon Goodwin. I went to school with him, and I played Aussie rules football with him. He played at the highest, like the NFL level, or the English Premier League of Aussie rules football, and he's a coach now, but I haven't had much to do with him for 30 years or whatever, but that's the level I was playing at and stuff. And the coach we had absolutely fucking drilled us into the ground, but then we'd be so trained so highly when the game came, we could kick ass and beat everyone and stuff, because when you train hard, the games are easier. So it's like when you work hard on this stuff, the reality is easier to deal with and stuff, right? So all those sort of variables of appreciation went into sort of the ingredients of who I am back then and stuff, to actually build a foundation to all of this now. That 2014 we got into some big GSF stuff relative to the Vatican and other things, right? So they're just sort of variables in my sovereignty sort of exploration, if that makes sense. I always felt there was another way. Perhaps, the gut instinct was, the sovereignty movement of really getting out of the system wasn't right, and, learning law wasn't right, and doing sort of Andrew's revocations wasn't right, but there were all the variables there to explore and be thorough about and stuff, and eliminate as possibilities and that. So I did a lot of missions out of all that in the second half of 2014 and 2015 and ever since. But getting into 2015, I was dealing a lot with this being out there, Nikki, and she was traveling all over the world. One of the big things we did in 2015 was she went to Kathmandu after they had a massive earthquake, because there was all temples destroyed and housing and thousands of people were killed and stuff, and they released all the demons and stuff, and she went to do her ancestral clearance of the land to clear all the demons like we would do later in the end of 2015. But appreciating all this and trying to do my best, I really got into Andrew's revocations in 2015. Like, I would take them all and go read them 4 or 5 times a week in different locations, and for 6 months, and I did extensive healings. Like, there was the being in my city that I would go to healings every 2 or 3 weeks, and it wasn't so much that I needed to do healings. This was that era that I eliminated, when I say about we're not the issue in the recalibration videos, it's externals. I was taking everything on board as me, because it was like understanding and appreciating how vast we are as a soul and all the incarnation war and all that, because I truly understood the incarnation war in April 2013 when no one else did and stuff, because I'd answered so many questions after, like, I did my past life recovery sessions and stuff like that to get a bit of a mystical sort of thing and reference of there is more out there. So yeah, 2015 I was doing a lot of the working a lot out and not having a lot of understandings and stuff, and working with these people doing missions. So my responsibility the bar I had of my responsibility with my principle of existence is I was taking everything on board and doing all the healings and investing in sessions. And then I finally got to the aha moment with being so thorough that a lot of stuff isn't me. When I was in a hermit mode and I went out and went for a walk, and I walked past this train station or tram station, all the people there, and I felt all the issues. And in the appreciation now with the Sabrina Wallace stuff that I've offered is that there's a big mobile phone tower there as well and stuff. So a lot of all that stuff was going on that I can appreciate now, tuning in back in that moment when I got that aha moment in 2015. So yeah, for 6 months I did Andrew's revocations dedicated. It was like half an hour to read and stuff, and going all different locations and going on like a pilgrimage or a journey to somewhere that had meaning to me, and doing them there, and not being even concerned about frackery or infiltration or all the stuff that I've revealed since 2020, okay, and what happened with me there and stuff. But it was a very rich time of raising my bar and exploring all these very thoroughly. And then, as I said, December 2015, did this big mission clearing up my city, and then went and did that work relative to the ancestral karma, all the land of all the disincarnated indigenous, and clearing them over to either go to 5D Earth or reincarnate, clear of all their karma and stuff. And 1.1 million chose to come through. So that's where the sacred site that I call it sacred because it was that was so big that we did. I've been very generous with allowing people access to it, and I had to do a lot of clearing of that. And since all this stuff that's gone on in these last 9 months and stuff, if that makes sense, because like I said early on, from my perspective now, even with this realization of the birth certificate sort of thing this week, all of that's been hacked, and all those have been hacked and stuff. So I made sure I put a lot of this into the sovereignty declaration I've offered, because a lot of people have been affected by that, not even knowing it, right? So yeah, 2016 was really interesting. I went to Andrew's event, Living the Mystical Life Daily in the Pacific Northwest, which was a really amazing experience. And then the end of 2016 and 2017, there was a group of us did the Conscious Strike revocation. And so we did that in a group, and from my perspective, it's fascinating because it's something changed, all right, whether it was edited and all that. But I had this big aha moment, I think it was early 2022, that there was a group of us that did that together, and it was about 16 pages, and then I got it, because a lot of it was just not that great, and then I worked on it and I created it to 25 pages. And I know Andrew took that to his 2017 mystical life daily event that I didn't get to. But I'm pretty sure he used that in that, right? The one that I did. Like, this is your 5 a.m. wake up call, domination control. So the lines I put a lot in and made it readable and stuff. I put a lot of effort into that. So then what I'm just offering is I've actually participated in creating this stuff and sharing it to public and that. And I was doing a lot of recordings and shows and creating a lot of content to help people gain their sovereignty, I felt, up until 2020, when I won't get into that. You know, I've shared a lot of what's gone on with me, where after that, June 2020, the Australian government allowed us to get access to our retirement, so I had a bit of money. It was fascinating because I remember walking on the beach with this mate. I was almost going to get back into my trading because the volatility is very profitable sort of thing. So I could have invested my money into trading, but I chose to invest into getting tools for healing and stuff. And I will absolutely not regret this path I'm on, because where I'm at now compared to mid 2020 it's been the richest and most parabolic acceleration of my journey since and stuff. So what I chose to do as a part of my thing was create a declaration of my own relative to all I knew and stuff, relative to the incarnation war. This thing, this mission that relative to the 1.8 million and stuff, the incarnation war was a big variable of sort of what I felt relative to the 5D Earth. And back then, because there were concepts that were the epitome of what I thought was all that we were doing. Plus I've released a lot of the GSF missions and kept having mystical experiences with people and all that up until 2020. So I felt like I'm a elder, like a peer in the reality, so I'm going to create my own. So I started doing my own, and a lot of it's been based on, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of thing. If I have no reason to change it, I'll expand in my own linguistics and try and do my best with what I know. And so I did a version 1 of things and stuff, and there's a lot of original concepts that I've worked out through all the missions and just aha moments or my own realizations that I try to impart. And so creating a variable relative to sovereignty declaration was my first variable there, because it was encouraged by people to do it their own way and your own frequency and stuff. And I had one ally out there, shout out to them, go over it, and I got them to sort of contribute. But then what I realized is, say particularly in my sessions when I started incorporating it, my sessions and my construct of my sessions is it all needed to be my frequency, right? So if you come to me and invest in me, then I can control all the negative variables going on, right? So it's not about control or anything like that. It's about the healing construct that I allow people into. I've got to be thorough. And so when you add external variables, just in a creation, there's all the energy and all the variables going on behind them. So it could be a portal or a hack or a backdoor sort of thing. And so that was very rich late 2020 of realizing that, because I had an experience with someone and I realized that version of my declaration didn't work compared to how it did in the past. So, because I was doing in-person sessions and stuff like that. So at the time I felt like combining all the ingredients of my session, and then I went and I invested in healing modalities, and pranic healing with MCKS pranic healing was one that came up. It only cost $400 and it was one weekend, 8-hour days, and I walk in within 5 minutes they're talking all about energy hygiene. So I was like, hello. So I'd never heard energy hygiene talked anywhere else and stuff. So apart from say with Andrew and that, which it's a massively unappreciated variable in the reality, that's why I talk about it a lot. So I did my own version back then, and then, as I said, October 2021 discovered Ashayana Deane, and I was like, wow, this flips all of this stuff in the past on its head. because say when Andrew used the linguistic sacred neutral perspective, there's a very disarming of like, this is the truth. Who are we to challenge this? It's neutral sort of thing. But what I've come to the conclusion of, it's not the case, and it's actually very much a governed, specific perspective, all right, relative to the species and stuff like that. And I won't get into it more. I've offered the Amplify the Echo series, which has a lot of the Ashayana stuff and that, but what I'm getting to is it was profound for me to finally actually hear. And there was this sort of dream I had where I realized this big fang was in my tailbone that was really limiting me and harvesting energy. And so when I cleared that out, it was like, you imagine you're in a spider's web and you're being sucked dry by the fangs of the spiders sort of thing. It was like I was able to recover myself from that dreaming sort of scenario of being harvested. And by doing that, I back then it was 25% of my energy back. So that's what allowed me to break free of sort of, if I was in spells or influence and stuff, to be able to expand. And I got back into Cliff Higher, because Cliff Higher was a variable in my trading days back in 2010 to 2012 or 2011, because it was big into Bitcoin and stuff like that. But I appreciated his mechanics of his employing software to skim the internet for linguistics to work out a subconscious pattern. There was things like reverse speech and stuff out there that I appreciate all this, and the tapping into the subconscious of a collective, that was interesting for me. And so I'm not really governed by skepticism. I'm open to all possibilities. I'm more looking for, why am I stopping myself from appreciating this concept sort of thing, rather than why should I entertain this concept, which a lot of people are governed by. So yeah, I was able to clear myself in that dream, because back in June 2021, I know, thanks to a lot of people out there, their dream times were hacked using my energy body, my image, my residual representation as a hack to discredit me back then. So I got that concept back then, and I went out and cleared all those people and stuff and invested proactively, and all these sort of things have been done to me for a long time, way before everyone else and stuff. But yeah, October 2021, discovering Ashayana Deane again and going into the One World Order Rising. I had this big hard disk folder with all her lectures that I got back in 2010, because Project Camelot interviewed her, and it was, yeah, profound. But it was just, as I've said many times, I just find me interesting that I couldn't appreciate that then. But it took me 11 years to get to. And it's bittersweet, because there's a lot of drama that went on, and what I appreciate now is she was in a captured sort of scenario with her husband and the other people, and there was a release of a video that was only out for a little while, and one of my clients got it, and he let me know of Sliders 12 Part 3, I think 2012, where she added her husband and all that was going on. So from my perspective, the CDT tablets were corrupted because they were seeded back to the Guardian side sort of thing, and then she was in this captured sort of thing. But I appreciate a lot of her stuff, and I worked very hard with her stuff, and then getting to that August 2022 when I released version 2 of what I'm calling my declaration now, that was a massive, massive achievement for me. I know it took me 17 hours to get it down, and from my appreciating of everything and all I've been through and all the thousands of hours going through the Akashic records of audios and stuff, the frequency of the truth in that, and when people employ it, and that is very obvious to me, alright, because I'm peerless in the volume that I've done, right, working and creating all the videos, the 300 videos that I made, and 10,000 hours is 3.5 hours a day for 10 years, right? You do 3.5 hours a day, that's 1,000 hours a year. So you need to do 10 years of that. So I was definitely doing 6 to 8 to 12 hours a day for many, many years. of everything. So yeah, pushing through a lot of stuff and finding the stamina and the willpower when things were very bad to get very pure and energy efficient, and sensing all that you sense and stuff, and remembering everything and employing cellular memory, and mastering all those components to be here now and stuff. And so then getting to this Asha big realization sort of stuff, it was 9 months or 10 months of hard work with hers, because her linguistics are very challenging. There's not a lot of reference. You have to go through a lot of the videos, and she assumes a lot of the concepts that you listen to, so it can be really hard to get up to speed. And so you need a lot of contextual investment, because her linguistics and concepts are so original and stuff, like all the species and that. It needed that, and I really loved those. I'm a bit of a wrigglepot at the moment. I really love those challenges. So if I come across new concepts, it's like very rich and rewarding, and I shared and imparted a lot of the content to people, and got them the sources of what I gained to actually. I always like including clips of people and stuff in the videos I do, so you have a reference to their truth. And if those people are people that you're interested in that you never know, it's rewarding for me to help you find those paths and stuff. So the Echo series was expanding on all the stuff I did with Andrew relative to the Akashic Records, and then evolving it to find the truth, because with all the stuff that we've gone through in these last 3 or 4 years, it's all been a massive setup for failure, and I was right in the trenches when all this stuff should have been known. So I'm taking responsibility for all that I've contributed to, and getting to this point now, and offering what I'm offering today. But yeah, for me, the version 2.1 that I released back in August 2022, it was such a massive victory and achievement for me to be able to invest so much and get the linguistics and the concepts and be able to interpret them in the way the reality works relative to them and impart it. I'm very grateful for anyone that invested in that and trusted me with that, because even though it's 18 months down the track now and stuff like that, I know at the time it was just so advanced and it was such a massive thing to achieve. And I know that everyone that sort of went to there and explored that, it was such a next level thing. Like, I out-created the reality in doing that. And so if you measure how it was for you then and how things were, it was an expression of me doing my best. And if it's not good enough, so be it and stuff. And if I was very careful in leaving it to be stable and stuff, and idealistically the concepts that are in that version 2.1, they are it, okay? But what I realized is, being a hen in a fox house sort of thing with all these people around me, I'm able to discover these things, and I share the solutions and the answers, and what they've been doing is creating solutions to negate my solutions and answers, and that's why a lot of these beings hang around me, because I'm pretty original and tapped in and to pure source, which I realize now. And the fake oversouls and all these hackings and all the influences that I've offered, it's like they've all been done to me to hinder me and all that sort of stuff, and I get it. And but I just thought we're all on the same team, aren't we? Or hand in the fox house, alright? So yeah, what I'm just saying is that version, that what I released in 2022 August, was such a massive victory to put it together. And in the 10 months of heavy investing in Asha sort of material to get that and all those concepts, appreciate how the Phantom Matrix and the negative species, and seeing what I'd been through is totally upside down and stuff like that. But then there's also, to me, defining your energy boundaries and defining your sovereignty is still always being valid. And so since that time, since August 2022 to now, as I said, like July 2023 busted this big thing going on around me with the code stealing and stuff, which that sovereignty declaration has it in it, but it wasn't as focused and stuff. And the reason why I'm a bit vague on things, like I said, it felt like, and it has felt like, without me really appreciating that, you have to keep cards close to your chest. So I always be broad and a bit vague to leave the unknown to play, but not like the negative unknown, that we have the ability to be infinite, alright? So we don't even need to know the issues going on. If we get our basics and our foundation right, then we can negate everything, alright? But I do also appreciate now that people need certain mechanics and appreciation of variables, and I'm careful of saying numbers because, say, people are competitive and they measure you against someone else. So say if I'm measuring myself against, say, Asha, it's like, oh, I'm not Asha, like I'm only 25% Asha, so if she's operating at 12D, I can only be 3D, 3.5D and stuff, you know? People do those sort of things, and they do negative placebo and negative manifestation of the limits for themselves when they have always been infinite all along. That's why I say I've tapped into my 2004 aspect when I was doing DJ mixes, because I was like probably better than I've ever been, you know, without even knowing it, okay? But what I will just offer this is, if you guys out there do think that there's wrong in that version 2.1, that's cool. What I'm happy about is you've evolved to a level to actually be able to question things where maybe you just accepted stuff. And I wouldn't employ it into my infinite potential sessions if there was an issue, but I welcome that, right? Because to me, it's not so much whether I'm seen as right or wrong in your eyes. It's like you've got the strength in your will now to challenge things and to not accept things and to even see if I'm wrong. But I don't do clarity sessions at the moment. I gave 10 years of investing into clarity into people to help them, because I can sense when people are maybe perceiving out here when they should be over here, like the contextual sort of thing. Because when I interact with someone, I can feel the blocks and stuff in the body and stuff. So I'm clearing out the areas to help them get the aha moments of something that might be hidden here that doesn't allow them to have the source connection and blast everything out, sort of thing. The influence is so profound in people, they don't even realize it, that they can steer you to a perception over here when you should be over here and stuff. And I know how to clear all that stuff, and I did it for 10 years with people, and because I've invested in being so thorough, plus like my mechanics of my clearing and stuff. But so I've incorporated these sovereignty declarations in my sessions, because I'm basically just trying to clear people enough so I can deal with them, because of how this world and all this in the community is and stuff, right? But yeah, I've just offered that. Like, it's not whether you see me right or wrong. I love the fact that people are got their willpower and their badass nature going to actually question things and not take things for granted and discern everything, including me and stuff. If you've got that mechanics in you since August 2022 to now, and I'm not assuming I'm right. Like I said, how am I wrong in this moment? I'm always looking for how I'm wrong and expanding. And I would never do something to cause harm and stuff intentionally. It doesn't mean I'm naive and am doing it, but I would just say that the key out of this 18 months wasn't whether that was right or wrong. It was the code stealing in July 2023 that we worked out, and all the sessions since employing that version 2.1 and being profound with the people that came through, right? So now we get to today, where I'm offering Infinite Potential Universal Sovereignty Declaration version 3, which to me is like a massive victory, right? Again. And all of this that I've offered, all my experience and journey and understanding these things, and still appreciating that it doesn't matter where the origin of whatever concept came from, right? It's about the employment of the voice and defining the rules in which the universe can interact with us. We don't have to accommodate all the crap out there. We have the ability to be the authority of our journey when it's never been instilled into us and stuff like that, by design, right? So there's many concepts in this that might be too much for people now, right? But I'm offering, like, maybe we're just intuitively adolescents and we've got a lot of growing, and just like maybe when you're 7 or 8 you buy a pair of shoes that are a couple sizes bigger so you grow into, or pants that are a size up because you're going to grow. Maybe these are just like big multi-dimensional adult pants when we've been in kindergarten, right? And there's room for expansion. And in a lot of the past of the videos I've tried to do, I've tried to cater to the level of the audience. Like my images, they're 7-year-olds, right? I'm aimed to teaching 7-year-olds. But what I've appreciated is that while I'm calling it Infinite Potential Universal Sovereignty Declaration, to me it's like a codex of all of that 10, 15 years that I've been through, and creating a document, not a video, that I would have wanted when I got started. And many of the, like what I said about Asha and say Andrew and all the other people out there, perhaps the linguistics that I employ are very foreign right now. And maybe you're going to have to go hit the books. Maybe you're going to have to watch videos and get the understandings. It's not my job to train you on linguistics. It's my job to, right now, to put the level of teaching that will expand the context of people and really aim to just date some really amazing people and get them onto their game that perhaps haven't even come through yet, so quick onto their game and aware of all this stuff. Like I said, from my perspective, when I appreciate a concept and I integrate it in my body, like the incarnation war and stuff, or the oversoul hack or anything like that, then I've built ideally the defense for it. The awareness has a byproduct of defending it, alright? So when you define it with your voice and your energy field, then you're actually creating the multi-dimensional defense for things, right? When you're putting a consequence into, are you sure you want to frack with me? Like, this is what's going to be the result, right? And with the expansion of the spirit team and engaging them, like, we're the authority of what goes on around us. A lot of them are waiting for orders and stuff, and the 1000D dragons, 10,000 central suns, 22D Mars, and a lot of the stuff offered there are things that I've had experience with in these last 9 months, right? That are there, and they've been allies. Like when we destroyed Baal, the space whales came in and helped us get out of this realm when a certain individual was attacking us, and then frying Moloch with the 1000D dragons on a spit. And yeah, many of the things, right, that I've been a part of, that I've tried to impart in my videos that I don't think people have heard because of a lot of the influence going on. The creation of this is a very big investment into help negating all that's prevented a lot of people from hearing and appreciating all the mechanics and stuff. So I've done my best in this version 3.2 that will be released, and I really feel even a lot of people that have been around for a while, they're going to go, holy crap, okay? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of viscerals, and you know, your body is going to tell you a lot. There's going to be a lot of effort to prevent you getting to it. And I would say this, guys, like, don't assume other people when they say they've done anything of mine, they've actually done it. I would offer, like, if people say they've done it, or like, say for instance, if they've done a session with me and they say it, get them to give you the recording of them reciting the declaration with me to prove that they're actually done it, right? Because I know some people out there have said that they've done things for me and they actually haven't, right? I'm not saying anything bad or anything, I'm just like, do a lot of vetting, raise your bar on the vetting and proof and stuff. Just because you do it and you experience it. Don't assume that others have been as thorough as you and stuff, because not a lot are really thorough. They do the bare minimum to get by, and it's not a competition or anything. It's just a lot of people have a lot of demands on their lives, and they probably don't have the space to dedicate themselves to it like you or I. But again, we've sacrificed a lot to be here, to have this awareness and stuff. And so those of you that are really dedicated and trust me and stuff and have found me, and that I really want to impart something I feel will be a really powerful ally to all the things going on in this world, because once you see what I've shared and I've put together, it's like all the variables like incarnation war and the stuff done to our food and the recent era, the Chaos 19 and all that. I've put it together as a big story that I've always had in my mind, that I've expanded on when I came to new concepts as well, that I feel a lot of people will see the bigger picture when maybe you weren't able to gel that together for yourself, when maybe even I've assumed that you have. And all the videos I offer have all that foundation of the overall story of what's going on. But yeah, maybe I've assumed that people have got that themselves and they've been operating that way. So I really feel like I said, flipping it and doing writing, like crossing the streams now and doing it in a writing, so people can not use electronics and print it out. It was interesting, like version 3.1, when I read it and I was like, this ain't me, alright? So maybe it got hacked and stuff, and like working out that birth certificate thing at the start, like I said, it was a big thing. But yeah, it's just, I guess what I'm offering is all of this stuff that I've said is me putting a lot together right now and raising our bar. And as I showed the unknown at the start, the unknown described in this way, the black at the bottom is our journey into the unknown and stuff. I feel this will be a big ally for getting a lot of people really revealing a lot to them of what's been going on, and help you, it's windy, and help you if you've been hammered by this stuff that you don't know because you're a threat and you're perceived as a threat to time, that it gives you the edge to overcome that and define your boundaries to make it safer for you to discover everything that's going on. So it's probably pretty long and I probably want to talk a lot more about this stuff, but I guess I hope I've gotten you the gist of my journey into sovereignty that hasn't been one of the main variables going on, like doing the missions and stuff, but it's definitely been a variable in helping me do the missions. As I said, even me, this big realization I had this week, it's just crazy, but I love it, right? Because you imagine you're using ankle weights to deal with the reality and you're being hacked and hacked into and all this stuff going on, but you've still been able to come out badass, right? So what is your potential if you do this? And this, what I said, is a very big antidote to all the bullshit going on. And you've been up against your journey to forge your variable, being a tip of the true spear right now, to be here now. What happens if you really do this and you define your energy boundaries at this level that I've offered and afforded us, and it is actually valid process to go through? How do you think your journey and how do you think your contribution on Earth now, wherever you are, being one of the rare ones that would do this, it's fascinating for me to even contemplate that, right? So I really hope this is going to be an ally to you. I hope it's going to help you put together your algorithm of understandings that you may not have gotten, that you've instinctively been driven to get all the components together so you can actually get your big gelling it together aha moment with all this stuff that I've offered right when it matters. Because for me, my whole thing, my whole journey, going back to my IT areas, is I'm solution orientated. There's got to be an answer. There's got to be a way through this. And I think we've all set our bar very low because we're so used to the mediocrity and all the bullshit going on, and accommodating the reality and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, it's a bit like multivitamin that you need like 5,000 units of stuff that only put 400 in it. It's not designed to be a solution. It's designed to make you believe there is no solution. So I'm interested to see how this goes, right? It's a great honor for me to have your trust to want to explore this and listen to me and all that sort of stuff. I really take on that responsibility, the impact, and, you know, all the journey and all the variables, and maybe some of them have been causes of influence and all that sort of stuff, but it's all been very rich and very necessarily building blocks to this moment now that makes this incredibly valid, right when it matters the most. There's a lot here that I've sort of said, and I'm doing my best to instill the potency of all of this that you've probably been on your own unique journey too as well, right? And it's not about me or this is my creation or anything like that. I love the discovery process and trying to shortcut time for people. And as I said about the reality sonar, sort of empathy sonar stuff, to know that we've been at such a disadvantage, right? To then level the playing field, if not go ahead and have an edge, right, in our universe, aligned with pure source, with all the allies we didn't know we have, right? On a planet that we've been very disconnected from, that has endured so much for us to be here. Getting through the incarnation war on the surface, and then dealing with all the variables, misguided, sort of undercover, you know, invaders amongst us, portraying themselves away as being a trap, because a lot of the spiritual community, from my perspective, was designed to capture people still relentless enough to bubble through with this yearning to know sort of thing, what is going on. So the big thing that realizes the edge of the realm is like the pure source corruption that happened at the moment. Source gestated our conscious potential a very long time ago down the track to be now. And I talk about our source code being hacked and us having this corruption built into us that we've never known, so we've had no reference that's been done and stuff. So yeah, it's just, as crazy as it is, as uncertain as it is, it's presenting all this opportunity to know so much more that we've never known, right? So we've been at a massive disadvantage. Creating this and offering it as an investment to restore some balance, right? So once we know what's going on, context, then we can navigate and have good decisions. So however far you are in your journey, if you're a veteran and done a lot of the stuff I've said, or if you're new to me and it's all these concepts are so raw and stuff, wherever you are in that, I really thank and honor you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. It is a great privilege, and for you to invest in anything I do and trust me, I take enormous responsibility for that. And so I feel that this is my best I've ever done, and it might be a real backbreaker for all the stuff going on. We're just going to have to see, guys, you know? I'm not promising anything. I'm infinite potential. Who knows what our potential is, alright? I don't ever want to put a cap on anything. Alright? So maybe we'll see some incredible synchronicities raw from here, alright? But those of you that get into this early, I appreciate that, alright? And who knows what you'll forge for the rest of the people to come through and stuff, right? But I really feel I've got a real handle on everything, right? And yeah, there was one variable I was going to talk about, and it was about getting into my DJing area as well. And that's about me and contributing to the reality and stuff. And back in the 90s when I got into DJing was so core to my being. Like, it was so significant. It was all I was. So creating musical expressions back then, I was terrified for feedback, you know. I was terrified that whatever I did wasn't good enough, and people are so finical about things and stuff. So music, like, I went hunting for the best music and the best DJs and did so much homework. I did like 30 hours DJing, mixing a week, and, you know, created so much and wanted to be the best and all that, and I was very good. But then when I got some chances to be public and stuff, I was so terrified of being judged. I went the full people pleasing and played tracks that other people liked rather than being my own original expression and stuff. And I just remember that. And, you know, a lot of us are all sensitive, and like doing public speaking and stuff, like in school, I freaking hated being the center of attention. I never wanted it. So then getting back to doing the audios and, you know, getting public and stuff, like my first interview was with Truth Frequency Radio in 2012, and that was a big step for me, and I got a taste of being public and I wanted more. But getting into actually contributing something to the public and stuff, you know, people find the wrong in everything, and I just never wanted to contribute everything, and I just wanted to be no one and in the background and never be judged and stuff like that. And so doing all the shows with sort of Andrew and stuff, and yeah, like I talk about this GSF 1 back in April 20 or June 2014, where we cleared a species over, and in the chanting that Nikki did, I realized that there was a lot of people waiting for me to contribute through time. And, you know, I didn't even know that I was meant to be a variable that contributed and stuff. So I got off my ass back then and got into videos and stuff like that. But what I'm just offering is, I came from a very sensitive era of actually not wanting negative feedback and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, it's not just wanting the negative feedback, it's also not wanting to do anything negative or contribute anything negative to the reality, and do my best and stuff. So one of the reasons why I've been so slow to get out there and stuff, and it's taken, you know, to get to this point, is because I've had to overcome that. And it's not like an overcoming sort of thing, it's more so appreciating the responsibility that you have to create an impact in an individual's life, let alone a lot of people and stuff. So it's all just really interesting. I've gone through all these sort of appreciating me and whether I want to do this and stuff, and I've got a lot of pushback, and it's been a lot of hard weeks these last 6 weeks to get this done and stuff. And again, it's like my maturing as an individual is accepting my eldership and all that I've done, and trying to impart, like I said, the empathy sonar sort of stuff. And yeah, it's just, in many ways, this moment is so poetic, right? And the timing of how things are, and, you know, a lot of you have been through a lot of stuff and are elders in your own right and masters now and stuff, and I just feel it's so poetic of doing this now. We're just gonna have to see what happens, right? So yeah, I just want to thank you for being here. It's probably going to be quite a long video. I'm in good form. Like, this clearing this thing out this week has really shifted me in the last second half of this week, and I'm feeling really, really glad to be able to share this with you and offer it and give humanity a potential leg up on all the things that no one else has been able to explain or recognize, because one of my strengths is reverse engineering all these mechanics of the influences and stuff like no one else has done. So as I said, that section was pretty tough to write and that, but I guess this is going to be 3.2 that I mean, it's already probably out when this video is out, but we're just going to have to see what happens. It's just a big victory to get to 3.2 done, so I'll try not to change it too often, but I'll keep an eye on things, and we'll see where we go, guys. But yeah, as I'll round it out because there's a lot in this, but I hope this is really potent for you. I hope you really appreciate the possibilities that you might have in declaring your universal sovereignty, alright? in a world that does not appreciate all the variables going on by design. There's so much going on and so much up for grabs that we don't know. So I thank you for being here, and I always honor you for investing your time into me. I hope this is very rich for you. And if you do get into the Infinite Potential Universal Sovereignty Declaration, I hope it's very beneficial for you. Whether you do it in a technical way or you just have it as a resource and absorb and stuff, I guess we're going to have to see where we go from here. Right? But as always, I really appreciate you for investing this time, to being here. And I think when you read it, you'll appreciate you and how epic you are just to be here. But let's see where we go with this now, guys. How about we have a bit of a fairer fight, all right? Let's see if these bullies like the attention and it flipped back on them, all right? But as always, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. And until next time, take care, be your epic self, and own all your power. Who knows where you'll be and where you can go from here. Enjoy. Andre out.
In December, heading for the city lights. 975, we sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world. What's running in every boy and girl? All rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can try a little adventure.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.